too old to be pregnant. She should be barren. But by the grace of God, she is pregnant. Mary is young and a virgin, too young to be pregnant. But by the grace of God, she is. One is married, the other unmarried. Elizabeth's child is the son of a man named Zechariah. Mary's child is the Son of God. One will give birth to the voice who will cry out in the wilderness, "Prepare the way of the Lord." The other will give birth to the Word made flesh. Yes, the time of our salvation is drawing near. As we've gone through Advent, we've watched and waited, and now our salvation draws near. And this year's Gospel we've just heard is generally referred to as the visitation. Mary spends 3 months with Elizabeth. She goes to the small hill village where Elizabeth lives. But Luke doesn't give us any details of their visit. He doesn't say what they did, where they went, what they spoke about, or how they spent their time. Maybe you, like me, would just long for bits of juicy tales of what they did and what they said and who they met. But he just focuses on the greetings that take place. Greetings as one of an embrace, but is more than a simple hug and a hello. In the 3 African countries I've lived and worked in, greetings are terribly important, and very important you don't miss them out or miss anybody out in your asking how they are and their greeting. But at the sound of Mary's greeting, Elizabeth is filled with the Holy Spirit. She recognizes and greets more than her younger cousin. She embraces the divinity carried inside Mary. She recognizes Mary as the mother of her Lord. And she greets salvation on that day. And then at the sound of Mary's greeting, as Mary greets her cousin Elizabeth, John the forerunner leaps for joy in Elizabeth's womb, the unborn prophet greeting the unborn Messiah. And together, Elizabeth and John, by their greeting, proclaim that the time of our salvation is approaching. You know, in many ways, our own lives are a series of greetings, one after another, day after day. Every day we greet one another. Family, friends, colleagues, strangers, enemies, and those in need. Every day we greet the circumstances of our lives. They might be joyful or sad. We might be greeting success or disappointment, or things we have lost or struggles. Maybe just a very boring day, we greet it, and they're exciting, and we've waited with excitement for that day. And every one of those greetings is pregnant with new life and has possibilities for love and compassion, forgiveness, reconciliation, healing, joy, beauty, wholeness, and holiness. We have unique opportunities every day in the way we greet not only our circumstances, but people, neighbours, friends, family, acquaintances. We noticed in a busy shop, as you thank the cashier or something, how their eyes light up. to say thank you. How are you today? And we can carry that message of salvation within us. So here these two women, Mary and Elizabeth, have this wonderful encounter, and affirming for Mary too that she's understood by Elizabeth. I wonder if we have someone in our lives whom we can share what God is doing in our lives. I wonder if there are others who can share their good news with me. Then there's another point we should notice about this story. By greeting Mary with honour, Elizabeth overturns social expectations. Mary is an unmarried pregnant woman, and in that society would be scorned and shunned. She would meet social judgment, maybe even ostracism from Elizabeth. She took that risk. Yet Elizabeth knows from her own experiences the cost of being shamed and excluded. And in the culture of Elizabeth's day, a woman's primary purpose was to bear children. So as an elderly, infertile wife, she had endured a lifetime of being treated as a failure. And her response to her miraculous pregnancy tells us that God's grace has reversed her social situation. This is what the Lord has done, she said. He looked favourably on me and took away the disgrace that I've endured among my people. At long last, she is an honourable married woman, pregnant with her husband's son. And Elizabeth continues this pattern of social reversal by opening her arms and her home to a relative whom her neighbours would expect her to reject. Maybe Mary came away from her hometown to get away from the gossip and the sly looks and the rejection, and Elizabeth accepts her. So the pregnancy that might have brought Mary's shame brings joy and honour instead. And when Elizabeth welcomes Mary, she practices the same kind of inclusive love that Jesus will do when he was on earth. Jesus welcomed prostitutes and sinners and all those who were not thought really well of in society. And Elizabeth's words and actions invite us to reflect on our own openness to the ways that God chooses to act in our world. When I was living in Kampala, we went once a week to a home for disabled and destitute children and people. And there was in this home an old man with the biggest smile you could ever imagine, but he was really dirty and he didn't smell so good. And he would come to me every week to stretch out his hands and embrace me. And it was so awful because I thought, God, he really doesn't smell well and he's so dirty. Please forgive me, I don't want to do it. And I did do it eventually and overcame. And together we shared something of love between that man and I. And I got to miss him when those weeks we were there. He wasn't there. So Elizabeth welcomed Mary. She embraced her. Jesus welcomed the stranger and the outcast, the people nobody else wanted. I wonder how we can welcome people in our neighbourhood, in our community. And in our greetings, I wonder how we can show that we belong to Jesus, that we love him. And just as we've lit now 4 Advent candles and we'll light one on Christmas Day. I wonder how we can be bearing light, be a light carrier to Jesus, who is the light of the world.